In 1942, RAF Thorpe Abbotts was built for the Royal Air Force as a satellite airfield for RAF Horham. But the rapid buildup of the 8th Air Force resulted in both airfields being handed over to the United States Army Air Forces. The 100th Bombardment Group arrived at Thorpe Abbotts on June 9, 1943, from Kearney Army Airfield, Nebraska. The 100th was assigned to the 13th Combat Bombardment Wing, and the group tail code was the Square D. The group flew the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress and operated chiefly as a strategic bombardment organization until the war ended. No combat unit sustained such heavy losses as the group's original flight crews. Only 4 of the original 38 crews completed their combat tour of 25 missions. Those heavy losses earned the unit title the Bloody 100th. In combat, the 100th concentrated its efforts against airfields in France and naval facilities and industries in France and Germany. The unit received a Distinguished Unit Citation for seriously disrupting German fighter plane production with an attack on an aircraft factory at Regensburg. Operations also included participation in the Allied campaign against enemy aircraft factories, including a series of attacks against Berlin in March of 1944, for which they received a second Distinguished Unit Citation for the mission. In addition to strategic operations, the group engaged in support and interdictory missions, hitting bridges and gun positions in support of the invasion of Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, and covering the airborne assaults across the Rhine River in March of 1945. Obviously, the 100th had no shortage of brave airmen. Airmen like Lieutenant Charles Hong Kong Wilson, who hitchhiked from his home in Fort Worth, Texas to Canada to join the Royal Canadian Air Force. There he trained with the Royal Canadian Air Force and became a sergeant pilot. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Sergeant Pilot Wilson transferred into the United States Army Air Corps, where he soon became a commissioned officer and command pilot of the B-17 Flying Fortress. He went on to fly 28 missions with the 100th, and after his combat missions, he participated in Operation Chowhound, the dropping of food supplies to the hungry people of Holland. But he was most proud of flying French POWs out of Linz, Austria, back to Paris, France. In doing so, he is remembered for buzzing the Eiffel Tower upon returning the POWs. Way to go, Hong Kong Wilson! On April 10, 1945, the Bloody 100th flew its final combat mission, number 306. In December of 1945, the group returned to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. Group personnel were demobilized, the aircraft sent to storage, and the unit was inactivated. After the war, the airfield was transferred back to the RAF, and after many years of inactivity, Thorpe Abbotts was closed. In 1977, a group of locals got together to restore the control tower that now houses most of the 100th Bomb Group Memorial Museum displays at Thorpe Abbotts. Black and white photos from the 70s shows how adults and children alike worked on clearing the site and repairing the battered buildings. From the start, strong links were made with American veterans. Visits by them and their relatives to Norfolk and visits by the Friends of the Museum to America became central to the life of the museum. And each year the Friends continue to make improvements. The quality of their work is reflected in the fact that the museum has been recognized by the Museum Libraries and Archives Council as an accredited museum and has also achieved Visit Britain's accreditation of Quality Assured Visitor Attraction. Remarkably, over 30 years on, many of the original volunteers are still involved with the museum. Today, airmen from Team Mildenhall are still deep in the fight, flying and supporting KC-135, CV-22, MC-130J, air mobility, special operations, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions spanning Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, securing their place in history and ensuring the Bloody 100th legacy lives on.